Greetings, programs. This is Wretch. Welcome back to VTM Shadows of New York. In the last episode, Julia had an unfortunate revelation, guys. She headed back to her apartment after the incident with Kaiser and Kadir, and she just wanted to relax, just wanted to recenter herself. So she went to her apartment earlier than normal and found Dakota basically wearing her clothes, wearing her makeup, and emulating her. So a discussion then happened in which Julia accused Dakota of single white femaling her, living vicariously through her. And Dakota didn't really have a whole lot to say, didn't really refute it. The argument got more heated and Dakota left, and now Julia is alone. Then she went to the church, learned a little bit more about Benoit's true motivations, what he's about, and got some info from the father that the meeting, the end of the investigation, is drawing near. So Julia's really going to have to do something drastic in order to come out on top. So let's see what happens here. Hey, Moon. My lone constant companion. When I moved here for good from, the old country, you were the only close friend who kept me company. Never felt in the right place back there. Never felt in the right place here. Especially now, when I'm not quite alive, not quite dead. Not that Slavic, not that American. But maybe it's about time I finally carve out some space for myself. It's been a long road, hasn't it? Wish me luck. I catch him in front of the art hole, because of course he had to be the first person I met there. No way. No. I'm going to be the laughing stock of the entire city if I don't show up to the resolution of my own investigation. How about you demonstrate a modicum of courtesy? Courtesy? Girl, I should put you on trial. I can't guarantee I eventually won't. You've messed with Kaiser, the eminence gris of this city. Beat him to a pulp like a random goon. He will do everything he can to destroy you from now on. And my bet is he'll succeed. Whatever will be, will be. For now, at the very least, I'd like to show the court I'm not a baby fledgling who can't see a task she was given to the end. You're making a huge mistake. How did you even learn this meeting is happening in the first place? Maybe I'm not as trash an investigator as you thought I was. I never said. But you're showing it. That's not a fair assessment. I wanted to finish this whole mess myself, for your own good. It would be nice if you asked what I think next time. I'm actually pissed off you tried to pull this off without me, but I'm not letting it show. Counting on being able to guilt trip him into submission. His deep sigh of resignation proves that my tactic was successful. Fine, but you will stay quiet. The whole time. No tricks, ifs, or buts. But of course. This way. We step into the maw of the gallery. The celebrations of power are almost over. Everyone is back to their usual respective styles again, looking weary of each other's company, trapped in their own little worlds. The art hole is nearly empty now, and Kadir is gently strong-arming the last remaining nobodies into leaving the premises. Eventually, only me and a select few New York Camarilla VIPs remain. Ah, Miss Lewinsky, barely made it, huh? The asshole with the glued-up smile spots me first, and he's just as authentically enthused to see me as ever. So he finally showed his face around here. I wasn't sure if you joined us tonight. Kadir made this meeting sound like a one-man show. Well, the preparations took me a bit longer than I thought they would. I apologize. Are you by chance planning to surprise us with something? Well, if I was planning something, it wouldn't be a surprise if I told you now, would it?
Can I have everyone's attention, please? We're about to begin.
Everyone remaining in the building gathers around Kadir. Ah, exciting. Is everyone present? Present.
And accounted for.
My prince. Yes. Before we begin, let me welcome an unusual guest to our fold. She gestures toward a corner, from behind which emerges a silhouette that would have never, ever appeared here under normal circumstances.
Name's Torque. I'm the Baron of the Bronx. I was delegated here by my compatriots as an oversight authority. I'm here to observe the results of the investigation. Nothing more, nothing less.
Let me stress this one last time. This is a one-time occurrence, meant to alleviate the tensions in the city, not a symbol of mutual recognition. Not in the slightest. I peek at Addison's face to get a feel for how a hardline loyalist might grapple with this arrangement. His expression betrays no surprise, only a slight discomfort. If even he is fine with it, the prince must have been extremely convincing about the necessity of a temporary truce, or about some Machiavellian tactic she's got ready up her sleeve. Who knows?
Of course, we might have irreconcilable differences, but there are times they have to be temporarily put aside in order to quell unrest and open paths for constructive, meaningful change.
If anyone would like to voice their concerns, the time is now. Torque, Arturo, and Panhard exchange glances. Normally, I'd consider it an innocent gesture. Knowing what I know, I roll my eyes. A stick or a carrot, Torque? What made you break and sell your compatriots? How much do you really know? If not, Kadir?
May I?
He steps in the middle of the room and clears his throat theatrically.
First, let me plainly state that the conclusion I'm going to present is by no means my own achievement. It is a result of a tireless investigation, conducted by talented Kindred I won't name here.
A telling glance in Torque's direction serves as a succinct explanation for why he refuses to call them by their names.
And of course, Julia Sawinski, whose ceaseless groundwork over the past few nights served as a foundation for the findings that are about to be revealed here. Thank you, Julia.
It's not the first time he sets out to oversell my achievements.
As the sheriff, my role here is mostly representative. I spent the last few days overseeing the celebrations in Elysium, making sure no harm would befall anyone present. Luckily, none did.
Looks like the prince's decision to move forward with the event was the correct one. And for that, we should extend our thanks to Kadir, and let us not overlook our guest to a degree.
I managed to convince my key allies that diplomatic action is the only way forward in this case. No matter how wrong-handed the enemy can be, we still need avenues to negotiate and communicate.
I'm curious how Tamika would react to him looking like a corporate bastard designing the future order. Actually, hold on one sec, guys. Can we... Music's a little bit loud. I'm curious how Tamika would react to him looking like a corporate bastard designing the future order, dismissing potential for change that lies in unrest. No wonder she dumped him. Spare us the empty pleasantries and let Kadir move on. I don't have all night for this.
Right. I'll be concise. Douglas Boss Callahan's remains were found in his office by one of his ghouls first thing in the evening. The first Kindred to confirm it was another Anarch Baron, Torque, present here. A mystery book author would refer to the circumstances of Callahan's death as a classic closed-room mystery. The metal door, locked from the inside, served as the sole way in. There was no murder weapon, no useful testimonies, and the evidence was, how do I put it, barely circumstantial at best. What was left for us was one hell of a puzzle, one where the answer couldn't even be approached using the tired and tested question, cui bono?
Look at that Molly crew.
We were presented with a poorly timed power upheaval, a tense situation where a long-planned celebration was in danger, and suddenly, all of us were faced with an uncertain future. Everybody benefited, yet nobody did. No one was especially fond of Callahan, but it's not like anyone seemed particularly keen on removing him from the equation, especially at this time.
For a moment, we were sure this was the beginning of an offensive on the part of the Camarilla. We started wondering just how violent our retaliation should be.
And as for us, we were momentarily convinced that the Anarchs were plotting to blame us for their own internal power struggles. A tense situation, resolved only thanks to skillful and swift diplomacy.
Dare I say, yet another victory for our talented prince.
Julia made sure to examine all the contacts Callahan might have had in his last days, in both sects. Her efforts were tireless, and only rarely misguided.
He just had to spit out one last biting remark, didn't he? Oh well. He's probably just covering his ass.
But as exhaustive as they might have been, they only served to muddle the possibilities, not explain them. Callahan had a lot of enemies, but they were the most infuriating kind of enemies one can have. Folks who barely ever thought of him anymore. In other words, no one really had a particular interest in getting rid of him, because they could always simply work their way around him. Just before last Christmas, he even witnessed the first ever successful First Light raid against his extremely profitable blood trade supply lines. The lone ace up his sleeve, a downright shady ability to perfectly maneuver around all SI activities, gone. Callahan's decline was apparent to all, and a domino effect made his empire slowly crumble. Up until recently, he'd done an admirable job keeping up with the times and getting away with murder. But suddenly, all of the prison spotlights were on him. The recent stories we hear about him depict a depressed, downright manic recluse lashing out at everyone, struggling and utterly failing to fit into a new reality he found himself in. A closed room, no evidence of struggle, a lack of strong, wide-dunnets, the corpse being found in the very early evening hours. The conclusion is simple. Callahan's final death was self-inflicted. Suicide, to put it in simple terms.
Huh. Silence has filled the room. So, wow. That really is the angle they'll be pushing, isn't it? Let's hear it, Sheriff.
I will explain. It was an independent detective who first set me on to this theory, only last night. There is no suicide note of any kind, of course, but the message our recently departed has sent might not have necessarily been a verbal one. The peculiar thing was the position of the body. It was like an arrow, pointing at us to notice something. It appears the last thing Callahan saw in his unlife was a portrait of one Lord Castlereagh, the second Marquis of Londonderry, which is, coincidentally, where Callahan was born. To most, he was a reviled traitor, a heartless suppressor of all dissent, the main threat against each rebellion the Irish have gone through, successful in all ways but those that mattered to his people. Some call him a tragic figure, holding together selfish allies against a common threat, always fighting for painful and unpopular compromises, ruined by overwork, sickness, and poor public speaking skills. You see the shadow being there in the background?
Not hard to see why Douglas Callahan would empathize.
Polite snickers. Indeed, especially when you realize that the sickness in his blood, his failures, the hatred from his own people, and a growing paranoia led him to commit a dramatic suicide within his own four walls.
Ah, I see.
The assumption is, instead of stabbing himself to death with a knife or a pen, he decided to let the sun embrace him in its warmth, Castlereagh's face burning into his eyes. A poetic final death. It's not a closure we might have wanted, but probably the best explanation of his motivation that we're going to get. Does everyone follow?
A heavy silence fills the room. Nobody speaks up, except Prince Panhard. To me, it's all perfectly understandable, agreeable, and most importantly, it fits the man I've come to understand over the last 2 decades. Consentient murmurs resonate through the room.
Agreed. And might I add, there were some irregularities in the handling of the crime scene, but the Anarch leader's findings suggested Callahan's resentful ghouls were to blame. Folks have been real happy to see him dead, is all I'm saying, and they went overboard with the celebrations. They've all been interrogated, though. Yes, I've received all the resulting intel, and it's done nothing to change my mind. Their depiction of Callahan's state of mind only served to support the suicide theory.
It is my suggestion that we all announce these findings to our respective communities first thing tomorrow night. Sounds reasonable, and I think that concludes this meeting. I'll let the Keeper of the Elysium do the honors. No time wasted, huh? All right. Does anyone have anything to add? Any questions to ask? Take your time. Silence. I look at everyone just sitting it out in perfect agreement. Congrats, everyone. Congrats us. We've achieved a perfect victory. No loose ends. No rocking the boat. No nothing. Makes you want to puke. How many of them contributed to this final report? How strongly does Kadir believe the shit running from his mouth? He's always been a Camarilla loyalist, a fanatic even, but... Miss Julia, any final statements? This is it. Now or never. If anyone can blow this pathetic charade wide open, it's me. But there's no coming back from this road, and it has a cost. I spent all of my life and unlife on social climbing, and the sunken cost fallacy is kicking in. Challenging them here might be my only way of ever making it out of the pit I'm in. On the other hand, maybe this is my time to head into the unknown. Kill my ego, at least temporarily. Shut up the voice of the elders screaming in my head. Betray my Lasombra instincts. Make all these ghosts go away and figure out something new, no matter how scary it might be. Do I dare? Or maybe I don't. I feel like there's an incredible prize to be won, waiting right in front of me, if I just dare to take out this revolver with its single bullet I have hidden on me. And invite everyone here for a crazy game of Russian roulette. But I also get this foreboding gangster movie feeling like this is the scene where the future mobster could have gotten out, but he didn't. In the end, did Callahan think all the splendor of the golden era was worth this pathetic end? It's like they're two selves battling for dominance inside of me. One of them has to die. The other gets to live. Honestly, it's a flip of the coin. I reflect on all the kindred I've met, lessons I've learned, choices I've made over these past few nights to make a decision. And then, feeling like I'm simply following the way I conducted this investigation to its logical conclusion, I respond. Actually, I do. It's like the beast itself flashed in Kadir's eye for a brief moment.
No, you don't.
But I do.
Miss Sawinski.
Don't make a scene. Believe me, every one of you will really, really, really regret it if they don't listen to what I have to say. Will we now? Oh, absolutely. I stand up and step right in front of Kadir. Don't get me wrong, Kadir has done a spectacular job of selling you a ready-made narrative to package and export to the outside world. Hail to the sheriff, and all that. But was this little show really necessary? Did you all really need to hype each other up to believe this fairy tale? What are you getting at, little girl?
Easy for now, my prince.
Insult me all you want. It's only going to make it all the sweeter when this little girl kicks your ass. I'm getting at the fact there's a different, more reasonable theory that explains everything. Everything to a T. That's great for you, sweetheart, but do I really need to stay here and listen to it? The door is right there, but on the off chance you get implicated in something tonight, don't you want the chance to defend yourself? And what are the chances of me being implicated in anything tonight? I'm pretty sure a lot of kindred in this room are asking themselves the same question right now. In each case, my answer is the same. You won't find out unless you stay right where you are. She stays. All right. Where was I? Let's assume that the cause of Boss Callahan's death really was suicide. Our man said, "Oh, fuck everything." Opened the window shutters, let the break of dawn take care of all his problems. And let's assume that he really meant to send a message using that portrait of Lord Castlereagh. Sounds dramatic, but sure, let's go with it. But it is commonly understood that Castlereagh was pushed into taking his own life as a result of a conspiracy against him. Needless to say, his biggest fan wouldn't miss that detail. According to historians, the man's last words imply that some powerful people faced him with a choice: denunciation or death, which for an ambitious politician is not a choice at all. So if you're claiming that Callahan left us a hint, it's a troubling hint, don't you think?
What are you... Enough. We're not dealing in conspiracy theories here.
Of course you're not. I mean, a conspiracy theory backed by the elites is no longer called such. It's propaganda. Is there a point to this little show you're putting on, Miss Sawinski, other than digging yourself a deeper and deeper metaphorical hole? Oh, Mr. Arturo, you're still trying to tell yourself it's me who's in trouble and not you? That's adorable.
Listen, you.
No. You listen. He freezes in shock. Definitely not used to resistance. I don't blame you for peddling propaganda. You're politicians. That's what you do. I'm just laughing at you for coming up with a shitty, poorly conceived propaganda.
So, will someone stop her, or...
Mr. Addison Payne, you're the architect behind the local Camarilla's current speeches and general political narrative. Be honest. Does this shit show really meet your standards? We stare into each other's eyes, unblinking, slowly feeling each other out. Eventually, with a barely audible snigger, he whispers to his servant.
How do I put this? I'm always open to a better pitch.
That's all I wanted to hear. All I'm asking for now is a little patience.
That I can spare.
Oh, for goodness sake, Addison, come on, man. You can't possibly...
Silence. I said what I said. Now let her talk.
Thank you. I'm starting to have fun with this. Or more like, I'm feeling that weird rush reminding me of the first time I managed to ride a bike. The important thing is to keep up the momentum. Focus on pedaling hard. Don't even think of falling. You thought you had it all figured out, didn't you? An improperly handled murder scene, a disposable investigator forced to blindly stumble around, hopelessly chasing loose ends. Your only problem is that tonight, I realized I was using the wrong tools all along. Instead of a sleuth's magnifying glass, I only needed a journalist's pen. So I sat down tonight, and I wrote my first article in almost a year. 2 hours of ceaseless writing, creative juices flowing the entire time, everything miraculously falling into place. And frankly, I think it's my masterpiece. I get carried away and jump on one of the benches. Oh. You want to hear the contents? I know you're all dying to hear the contents, so okay, let's hear the contents. Aisling Sturbridge, High Regent of the Chantry of the Five Boroughs, violently splitting with her student after he discovered her plans for horrifying experiments with blood magic. Her target? Baron Callahan. Said student? Conveniently missing. We've got an exclusive source, too. Agathon the Warlock's personal diary. Extra, extra. Read all about it. She's trying to hide that she's nervous, but she's practically shaking. I should be the one shaking. I'm piecing together what little solid or relatively solid intel I have, gluing it together into something coherent with educated assumptions and pure conjecture. But at least I'm fairly sure she recognizes me as a threat now. Just what I was hoping for. Next up. Is it true that Torque, the brave Anarch Baron, primed to be the next de facto leader of the sect in NYC, might have been manipulating his entire faction to secure the position? This appeasement candidate convinced his key allies that the revolution is not an option at the moment, appearing as a reasonable alternative to his bloodthirsty rivals. His ace in the hole was a strangely efficient ability to establish diplomatic channels with the Camarilla, which he then used to gain a series of small concessions from the NYC court. Could it be that Prince Panhard, having realized that her longtime collaborator Baron Callahan was just an undesirable asset, found a different, more 2020 candidate to be the leader of the Anarchs? Extra, extra. Read all about it. This one's not shaking. She's just angry. And this one just seems confused. But what about the fact that Torque, Helen Panhard, Thomas Arturo, Carter Vanderweyden, and Aisling Sturbridge were all summoned to Callahan's office right before his death? Could it be that the so-called boss employed some final desperate measures to stop his downward spiral into irrelevance, at which point a rushed plan to bring on his demise was executed? Could it be that Kaiser, the legendary New York City info broker, striking deals left and right with both the Camarilla and the Anarchs, wiretapped Callahan's office to eavesdrop on those negotiations? Extra, extra. Read all about it. You could cut the atmosphere here with a knife, and it's only getting worse. For them, at least. I feel better than I've felt in years. And the fact nobody is protesting probably means I'm hitting the nail on the head. Could it be that for the entire 21st century, the conflict between the New York City Camarilla and the Anarchs was a sham? What if the Second Inquisition's operations in the city were consulted with the leaders of the two sects? How deep does the rot of corruption go? And what about Sophie Langley's disappearance? Attempts on the unlives of would-be members of a coterie she attempted to set up alongside her ward last year. Could all of these things be connected? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Stay tuned, dear readers. Heavy silence befalls the room. When it becomes too overbearing, Kadir breaks it by hawking loudly. His poker face is indecipherable. And where, pray tell, can one read all about it tomorrow? 10 different places. Among them, of course, a report received by Clan Lasombra's elders in Chicago. Constantly mixing truths with lies. I do know some facts. I did write something. But all in all, it's a confidence grift. Plain and simple.
Have you sent it out already?
No. And Father Leonard is not the channel I used to reach Chicago, in case you were wondering. I took every possible precaution. The way you taught me. I know this hurts him, but I can't show a single weakness right now.
Oh, this is ridiculous. She's probably bluffing.
No. She knows, Thomas. Aisling, how can you be certain? I just am. That diary probably just saved my ass. Thank you, Agathon. I guess. Even if I was bluffing, it's all about the optics. You nominate a special investigator, then the moment she presents her findings, you do what? Subjugate her? Get rid of her? How do you get out of this? I get it. You gave me that role, that title, because you were counting on me remaining the same shitty, useless nobody I was ever since I started working for the court. But, funny how that works, isn't it? A week ago, nobody would give a shit about what I have to say. Now, I'm a grave threat to this entire Illuminati New World Order arrangement you've got going on.
I still maintain you can't possibly know and prove all of the claims you've listed. There's just no way. I know. I've checked.
First off, stop bullshitting. You don't know that for sure. Secondly, even if you're right, so what? I've got leverage now. Because of my journalistic past, you gave me a detective title that wasn't worth a rat's ass in doing detective work. But ironically, it gave me the opportunity to do the best reporting I've ever done. And it doesn't even matter if it contains more facts than your official narrative. And you know why? Because the story I offer makes infinitely more sense. Morally, emotionally, metaphysically, however you name it. It's a far hotter commodity than the low-rent bullshit you peddle. People nowadays buy into barely coherent crap like 5G and QAnon. Once they get a hold of my perfectly logical story and see you don't really have anything to counter it, you'll be fucked. Hell, the very fact none of you have denied any of my allegations yet speaks volumes, doesn't it? The prince is absolutely furious that she's not in charge, visibly scrambling to figure out something counter-offensive. Why would anyone listen to you? You made that story of yours sound completely unrespectable, like tabloid garbage. Tabloid would be fine. Just means it would reach more folks. What? What do you want? Now we're talking. A primogen position for Clan Lasombra, and a number of privileges befitting the title. We can negotiate the details, but a nice apartment in downtown Manhattan is a must. Dreaming big, are we? What could you even bring to the fold as primogen? I turn away from her to speak to the manager. Mr. Payne.
Yes.
As you can see, we've all found ourselves in quite a mess here.
Indeed, to say the least.
If I find us a way out, will you form a professional relationship with me and back the decision to make me primogen? The figure in the wheelchair lets out a sarcastic laugh, sounding like the final wheeze of a dying man.
You really are swinging for the fences, aren't you, child?
I'm not suicidal. Most of the time, at least. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't have my sights set sky high.
I understand. So how do you propose we solve this little predicament?
Easy. We give the masses an even better story than the one I just suggested. One that benefits nearly all the parties in this room.
All right, then. Thanks to your moxie, you've secured yourself my tentative support, child. Let's hear it.
Thank you very much. Okay, then. During my investigation, I recovered some interesting intel about a certain individual. Praise be to Kaiser's abandoned limousine. Said individual would definitely prefer his behind-the-scenes dealings to remain unknown. For the last 20 years, he's been an on-and-off mediator between the different parties in this city, and he prides himself on his diplomatic skills. Interestingly enough, though, one of his main motivations was selling intel about both the Camarilla and the Anarchs to any party that might be interested. Usually, that meant Kaiser. With a reasonable degree of certainty, he could be held responsible for a few recent failed Camarilla operations that weakened Helen Panhar's position. He dreams of being a prince, you see. I can already see him awkwardly shifting his weight. Recently, he obtained control over an IT company called Double Spiral, which he uses to influence NYC kind in ways that further his agenda and weaken his political enemies. He also operates the most powerful law firm in the city. He uses both of these tools so he can manipulate the mortals to slowly tie a noose around Anarch leaders and court members who he wants gone. I'm talking, of course, about Carter Vanderweyden. In a split second, all eyes in the room are set on him. People, whatever she throws at me, I'm sure I can explain. I throw a file I recovered from Kaiser's limo at the bench. Are you sure? Because there's a hell of a lot to explain. Addison's servant picks up the file so that his master can browse through it. And if that's not enough, I'm sure Double Spiral will be happy to deliver us more.
So all the things you said the other night were a steaming pile of bullshit, Carter.
Addison, we're friends. There's a good explanation for every single thing that's listed there. I swear on my father's grave.
Even if there is, I doubt you can justify allowing a girl who's little more than a fledgling ripping your credibility to shreds in a matter of seconds. You've proven yourself as something infinitely worse than a traitor, Carter. You are a weak traitor.
Thomas, Helen. Don't you even dare speak to me, you bastard. That was the last element of my strategy. I hope they won't throw any curveballs my way, because from now on, it's all pure improvisation. Just 2 minutes ago, I was the #1 enemy of everyone in this room, Now, I'm their unexpected ally, revealing a common foe that some people in this room have wanted to nail since forever. All I'm saying is, we've got ourselves a perfect scapegoat to pin everything on. Shady dealings between both sects, all the real conspiracies he was involved in, impossibly perfect looks in history. The Schadenfreude accompanying his fall will be enough to keep some kindred in the city happy for years. He shoots me a demented look, one I assume is typically reserved for a future strangling victim. You can't do this to me. And why is that? You are incompetent. Wow. That's the best you can do. Seriously? Kadir.
Yes, my prince.
Seize him. No, I beg you, just no.
You can come with me without struggle or in torpor. As usual, it's 3 strikes with me. Then you're gone.
No. He talks a lot, but puts up minimal resistance. Kadir drags him out of the room, and that's the last I ever see of him. For a good minute, everyone just stands there, confused. Then, Addison begins to clap.
Bravo, Miss Swinsky. I haven't seen such an adventurous power play in years. Maybe your generation is not all lost after all.
Does that mean I can count on your support?
Of course. As far as I'm concerned, you're the kind of ruthless primogen this city needs, especially now when one seat will probably be made vacant.
So, what do you say, my prince? Panhard recoils a little when she hears me refer to her in such an official manner. My relationship with Addison is a decades-long conflict, but by now, I know which hills I'm willing to die on. This is not one of them. Rejoice, girl. You're going to get what you want, as well as deserve.
We do have one important condition, though.
Of course you do.
Mr. Payne, as I'm sure you'll agree, being primogen is an important representative position. It demands nothing but a display of impeccable respect for the Masquerade and its traditions.
Of course.
It is my concern that it wouldn't be proper for us to be represented by someone who openly violated the rules of kindred society.
But of course, that wouldn't do at all. They'd have to openly renounce their old ways at the very least.
Indeed, and I think that in the case of Miss Sawinski, who has lived with a mortal under a single roof for a long time,
the best course of action would be to renounce her and give her up to our sheriff.
That kind of gesture would prove the new primogen's dedication to the court beyond any reasonable doubt.
Yes, I definitely agree. Her ambition and pride are admirable, but it would be prudent for us to demand a display of humility as well. Sadistic fucks.
My thoughts exactly. Well then, your answer, miss? What's so funny, Miss Sawinski?
I see it in your eyes, Arturo, you naive fool. You think you're so goddamn clever. You think I would have gotten this far if I didn't think it all through? There's only one response. I agree. Do what you must. He's speechless. He thought he had me pinned, and I simply responded with a checkmate.
Guess that solves our problem, then. Let's head out for now. It's been an exhaustive evening, and dawn is nearing.
Yes, let's just do that. He walks Payne out, looking unstrung and defeated.
Oh.
Soon after, Gadir was ordered to take care of Dakota. He asked me if I want to know what was done to her. My reply was honest. Not really interested, no. He said that I'd gotten myself into a terrible game, the rules of which defied comprehension. I replied that if I'm winning and climbing upward, I must be doing something right. Still, we don't talk too much these days beyond professional interactions. I have a much bigger world to think about now. One that fills me with happiness. Come to think of it, my current state reminds me of those few halcyon days right before my embrace. It might not last, but at this point I have to ask myself, what does? It's always about the next, bigger rush. I'm writing speeches and official communications for the NYC Camarilla these days, helping out Payne from time to time too. Funny, I've never felt more accomplished, more fulfilled as a journalist than I am now. Karen is visiting in a few days to congratulate me on the behalf of the entire Chicago-based clan. Apparently, I've not only met her expectations, but exceeded them. She keeps bragging to everyone about how great her eye was in picking me. It's only these shadows that keep getting to me. I notice them everywhere these nights, and there are more and more of them surrounding me as time goes on. But it doesn't matter. I like to think they're being cast because my future looks so bright.
Oh, what a great ending.
Oh, crap. So from how I understand, there were two endings to this game, and this, I guess, was I assume, the pure Lasombra ending. Because we had those choices that would give us character traits. I'm not sure what the other ending is. I'm going to have to look that up, but man, that was great. And that's kind of what, the thing about it is, when you're dealing, and we saw how powerful this cabal was in coteries of New York, it had to be something extreme to actually affect them in some way, to even join their ranks. And the fact is that she used her... The kind of ironic thing about it is Julia basically used everything that she hated when she was a journalist to get in to the Camarilla Society, to become a primogen. Which means if she's a primogen, there's going to be more Lasombra showing up in New York. But, yeah, well done. That was a great game. I enjoyed that a lot. That had some good writing to it. Told a really good story. And now that we kind of know what's going on, this picture makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? Wow. Okay, guys, well, I highly recommend checking out the game yourself if you haven't. There were other choices to be made and another ending, so maybe you can, try for that and see what happens to Julia. Maybe something better, maybe something a little less, with signs and portents of bad things to come. But, yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed it. This is probably some of my favorite voice acting I've ever done for a Let's Play. But, if you guys have liked the series, please, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, that'd be a big help, leave a comment, and we will see you in the next series. Later days, everyone.